Everyone knows Walter White from Breaking Bad was a genius, a real scientist through and through. But let's be real, no sane person turns to cooking crystal meth just for kicks. There was a whole lot more brewing behind the scenes that pushed him to make that life-changing choice to become the infamous Heisenberg. So, what led him to this double life? To help you understand him better, I'm going to explore every important event that shaped him into the man he became, and show how even the brightest minds can be twisted by trauma. Before the blue meth and desert shootouts, Walter had a golden opportunity at Gray Matter Technologies. He started it with his best friend from Caltech, Elliot Schwartz. These two were tight. They aced their projects and even nailed a Nobel Prize together. So they figured, why not start a company? The name Gray Matter itself was a blend of Walt and Elliot's last names. Schwartz, meaning black in German, mixed with white, creating gray. While launching the company seemed like a no-brainer, they quickly realized it needed more time and money than they had to really take off. Around this time, Walt was dating Gretchen, a brilliant scientist from a wealthy family who worked alongside him and Elliot. She was smart, kind, and completely in love with him. But Walt couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't belong in her world. Her family's wealth and status made Walt feel like he didn't belong. Instead of confronting his insecurities, he did what he always did when backed into a corner. He ran. He broke up with Gretchen, walked away from Gray Matter, and in a decision that would haunt him forever, sold his shares for just $5,000. Meanwhile, Gray Matter skyrocketed to a value of over $2 billion. As Walt watched Gray Matter turn into a billion-dollar empire, it really got under his skin. He kept in touch with Elliot and the others, but deep down, he was seething. Every time Walt heard about Gray Matter's successes, it felt like a constant reminder of his own choices and what he missed out on. He saw each achievement as a reflection of his failures, and that really stoked a fire in him. He wanted more than just money. He wanted respect, recognition, and to build an empire so massive it would overshadow anything his former friends had achieved. At home, Walt's sex life is practically non-existent. Skylar seems more interested in selling stuff on eBay than spending time with him. And even if she weren't, Walt has trouble getting inspired anyway. To make things worse, his brother-in-law Hank is everything Walt isn't. Loud, confident, and a DEA agent with a flashy job that Walt Jr. looks up to way more than his own father. It became painfully clear just how little influence Walt had over his own son when Marie called Hank, not Walt, to deal with Walt Jr. after suspecting him of smoking weed. From the start, it's clear Walt is in the middle of a midlife crisis. He feels frustrated, overwhelmed, overlooked, and unappreciated. Even in the one place he should have control, his chemistry classroom, his students couldn't care less. The one thing he's actually good at falls on deaf ears, making him feel like his entire life has been one long, cruel joke. Walter's path took a darker turn when he was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. At that moment, his entire world flipped upside down. Faced with the reality of leaving his family with nothing, he made a desperate choice, selling meth to secure their financial future. But that decision cracked something open inside him, unleashing years of frustration, resentment, and buried ambition. And before you know it, the quiet high school teacher started transforming into a cold, calculated meth kingpin. Then fate, or maybe just sheer bad luck, throws Jesse Pinkman into the mix. It all starts with a ride-along. Hank, Walt's DEA brother-in-law, invites him to tag along on a meth bust, probably thinking it'll be a fun little reality check for the quiet high school teacher. Walt goes along, standing awkwardly on the sidelines while Hank and his guys do their thing. Then something catches his eye. A half-dressed guy scrambles out through a second-story window and makes a run for it. Walt squints, barely believing what he's seeing. Jesse Pinkman. But their reunion changes everything. Jesse had no idea what was coming. Mr. White was the last person he expected to see knocking on his door. Walt makes him an offer that makes no sense, at least not at first. Jesse figures out if Walt's really that desperate, maybe he just wants to buy some meth, something to take the edge off. But that's not what Walt's here for. He's not looking to get high. He's looking to get into the game. But after a few strange, awkward meetings, Walt realizes that Jesse's product is garbage. And if there's one thing Walter White doesn't do, it's half-baked chemistry. If he's gonna do this, he's going to do it right. So he does. With his unmatched skills and the makeshift RV lab, he cooks something purer than anything on the streets. And just like that, he steps into a world he doesn't fully understand. Moving on to the episode and the bags in the river, Walt is still operating under the illusion that this is just a business. But the streets don't work like that. Their first real batch of meth barely lasts before trouble arrives. Crazy 8, a mid-level distributor, and Emilio, Jesse's old partner and a walking liability, show up unannounced with guns drawn, ready to take over. Jesse is forced to lead them straight to the RV where Walt is waiting. Walt still clings to the idea that he can think his way out. At first, it almost worked. Crazy 8 is impressed by the quality of Walt's meth. But then Emilio Emilio recognizes Walt from the DEA bust. Just like that, the meeting turns deadly. Just as Crazy 8 has a gun pointed at Walt's head, he does what he does best. He thinks. He tries to use his valuable recipe as a method to negotiate for their safety. But just when the moment comes, he unleashes a toxic cloud of gas, turning the RV into a death trap. Emilio drops dead before he even knows what's happening. Crazy 8 collapses, but he survives. And that's the problem. See, Walt doesn't know it yet, but this is the moment that changes everything. He's not a gangster, not some hardened criminal. He's a guy who still believes that he can logic his way through the mess and solve it like one of his high school chemistry problems. Now there's a half-dead dealer chained up in his basement, and Walt is standing at a crossroads. The old Walt, the one who second guesses, who hesitates, who convinces himself he's still a good man, thinks there's a way out of this where nobody has to die. And for a while, he believes it. He feeds Crazy 8, talks to him, and decides to let him go. But Walt notices that a shard of broken glass is missing from the plate Crazy 8 broke and realizes that Crazy 8 plans to kill Walt as soon as he frees him. And for all his calculations and all his thinking, Walt only has one choice left. He had been using a bike lock to restrain Crazy 8, and in a moment of sheer desperation, he tightened it around his neck. He pulls with everything he has, and just like that, he strangles the life out of a man with his own hands. As soon as it's over, Walt starts apologizing. But apologies don't change the fact that something inside him has shifted. Later, we also see him making himself a sandwich and cutting off the crust, just like Crazy 8 used to. This was a comforting act in reminding him that he killed Crazy 8, and he is capable of being just as ruthless as they are. In the episode Cancer Man, Hank informs his team that there is a new group of meth cooks in town, making some of the purest meth he's ever seen. He describes these new players as having a high skill set. Later in the same episode, Hank is having lunch with the Whites. He starts giving out dating advice to Walter Jr. This is also the moment when Walt decides to tell the family that he has been diagnosed with lung cancer. Moving on, in the episode Crazy Handful of Nothing, Walt confronts the financial burden of his treatment and starts pushing Jesse to boost their sales. Jesse connects Walt with Tuco Salamanca. He realizes that the world he's entered doesn't follow the old school rules. Tuco is not an ordinary drug dealer. He's violent, unpredictable, and doesn't follow any rules. As a key player in the Mexican cartel, Tuco is known for his quick temper and his willingness to kill anyone who crosses him. Jesse knows this all too well, but Walt doesn't yet understand just how ruthless Tuco can be. After Jesse fails to handle Tuco and gets severely beaten while Tuco takes their product without paying, Walt realizes he has to step in himself. This is where he makes his first truly bold move as Heisenberg. Walt, now wearing his signature hat and sunglasses, walks straight into Tuco's hideout, demanding payment for the stolen meth. At first, Tuco and his crew mock him, underestimating the quiet chemistry teacher. But when Walt reveals he brought something special, fulminated mercury, an explosive chemical disguised as a bag of meth. With one swift motion, he slams a chunk of it onto the ground, causing a massive explosion that shakes the entire building. The intimidation tactic works. Tuco, impressed and slightly terrified, agrees to pay Walt not just for his stolen batch, but in advance for more. This is when Walt starts to change. He's no longer the scared chemistry teacher trying to make a quick buck. He's realizing that he's got to be ruthless to survive in this world. The old Walt would have feared someone like Tuco, but fear is a choice, and Walt chooses differently. This is the moment where Walt's Heisenberg persona is first born. In the same episode, Crazy Handful of Nothing, Tuco asks Walt who he is, and he introduces himself as Heisenberg for the very first time. He takes on the name and the look of Heisenberg, so he doesn't have to recognize himself. It's like he's creating a whole new person, someone who doesn't have to answer for Walter White's choices. This way, he can dive into the deep end of this dangerous new world without looking back. Eventually, Walter fully transforms into his drug kingpin persona, Heisenberg. He becomes a guy who's tough, in control, and doesn't shy away from making tough calls. He's confident, manipulative, and even cruel. You could say that his cancer was just a trigger. Sure, Walt was always the family man, stable, pretty mild, but deep down, there was always a part of him ready to break out. This Heisenberg side that's powerful and feared. When cancer hit, it was like it woke up the other side of him, which he fully embraced. Let's take a look at his venture into homemade poisons. Take the time he decided to spice up his meth with Ricer. She started off as the typical housewife, totally in the dark about Walt's secret life. She kind of ran the show at home, calling the shots on everything from the family's finances to what they had for dinner. It's no wonder Walt felt a bit stepped on and underappreciated. Skylar knew how to get her way in just about everything that touched on family matters or Walt's personal space. But as Walt's position as meth kingpin flourished, his relationship with Skylar deteriorated. His frequent absences and secretive behavior pushed Skylar away, driving her closer to her boss, Ted. In the